The air hummed with the scent of roasted beans and warm milk. The daily grind buzzed, sunlight pouring through its wide glass front, illuminating the polished espresso machine and the constant flow of young, energetic faces. In a quiet corner, an old man sat. His flannel shirt, though neatly pressed, showed its age, its colors softened by countless washes. His denim trousers were worn smooth at the knees, and his sturdy boots, while clean, carried the marks of many miles. He simply sat, his gaze fixed on the bustling counter, waiting for an opportunity to speak. He wanted a single, plain black coffee. 15 minutes ticked by. Baristas, a flurry of motion behind the counter, whizzed past, their attention solely on the next order, the next customer. Their smiles, quick and bright for others, never landed on him. Conversations swelled and ebbed around him, a constant murmur of laughter and phone calls, yet he remained an island of silence. He lifted a hand slightly, a small, polite gesture towards a young woman with a perfectly neat bun, who was wiping down a nearby table. She glanced his way, her eyes briefly meeting his, but her expression remained neutral. Then she turned abruptly, moving on to another task. He lowered his hand, his patience unwavering, a quiet strength in his stillness. Finally, the young woman approached him, her posture stiff, a faint line etched between her eyebrows. "Excuse me, sir," she began, her voice crisp. "This seating area is for customers who have already placed an order. Are you perhaps waiting for someone?" His hands, calloused and lined, rested gently on his knees. "I'm here to order a coffee," he replied, his voice a soft rasp. Her eyes swept over his modest attire, a subtle, dismissive assessment in their quick movement. "Right," she said, drawing out the word, her tone implying doubt. "Well, someone will assist you when they're available. The line is over there." She gestured vaguely towards the crowded counter, her meaning clear. He was not a priority, perhaps not even a true customer in her eyes. The unspoken judgment hung in the air, a cool, unwelcome presence. Minutes dragged by. The old man sat in his corner, a silent fixture in the lively café. He watched the continuous stream of customers. They walked in, placed orders with ease, and quickly found open tables, often before he'd even seen them approach the counter. He saw the young woman, the one with the neat bun, laughing with a group of friends who had just entered, their coffee requests instantly taken. No one offered him a menu. No one acknowledged his continued wait. The cafe's once inviting warmth now felt cold and distant around him. He thought of desolate landscapes and muddy trenches, places where a man's worth was measured by grit and loyalty, not by the clothes he wore or the money he carried. The contrast was sharp, a silent ache. His quiet dignity held him firmly in his seat. Making a scene was never his way. Through a large glass partition, the cafe manager, a man with a slick hairstyle, chatted casually with two baristas. Their eyes frequently darted towards the old man. A smirk played on one barista's lips. "Seriously, that old guy has been planted there forever," he chuckled, adjusting his apron. "Think he's just trying to catch some free heat? Probably waiting for someone else to foot the bill." The other barista rolled her eyes. "We get those types sometimes. They wander in, look lost, then vanish when they figure out we aren't handing out freebies." The manager simply shrugged, dismissing the old man with a wave of his hand. Waste of time. Focus on the actual customers. Their words, though muffled by the glass, were clear enough in their dismissive gestures and condescending laughter. The old man reached into his breast pocket and pulled out a small, worn leather notebook. It was an old army habit, jotting down observations, sketching ideas, or simply keeping busy during long stretches of waiting. Inside, among precise diagrams of tank engines and cryptic radio call signs, was a faded quote from his commanding officer, "Every soldier matters, every voice heard." He traced the words with a rough finger, a silent anchor to a time when his presence, even through a radio, was critical. No one in this buzzing cafe knew that story. No one bothered to ask. The indifference felt heavy, a complete lack of acknowledgement. Even the young woman who had first approached him now stood with the group in the back, adding her own sharp comments about the old man in the corner. Suddenly, the soft hum of the coffee grinders died. Conversations sputtered and stopped. The faint clinking of mugs ceased. Outside, a sleek black SUV, highly polished, glided to a silent halt directly in front of the cafe's wide windows. A man emerged from the driver's side. He stood tall, his dark suit perfectly tailored, his movements precise, carrying a military bearing that no civilian life had softened. This was a man who commanded attention. He stepped inside, his presence filling the space instantly, his sharp eyes sweeping across the room. They paused, then settled, locking onto the old man sitting quietly in the corner. His stern face softened, almost imperceptibly. "Sergeant Arthur Jenkins." His voice, deep and powerful, boomed across the silent room, echoing with command. Heads snapped. Baristas froze mid-motion, their hands suspended over counters. The manager, a man with slicked-back hair, stepped out from the back office, startled, his eyes wide with confusion. The tall man strode purposefully across the polished floor, completely ignoring the stunned staff, and pulled the old man into a firm, genuine embrace, a powerful warmth in his grip. The young woman with the neat bun stammered, her face pale. You know him." The tall man turned, his eyes narrowing slightly, no longer soft. "Know him?" he repeated, his voice quiet, yet sharp, like cutting steel. "This man is why my entire battalion made it through the 68 Tet offensive. He worked without stopping for 3 days under constant fire, keeping our radios working when communications were our only way out. He's the reason many of us are even here." The manager stepped forward, a forced apologetic smile on his face. "Sir, we had no idea he was a veteran, a hero." The tall man cut him off with a look. "That's precisely the problem. You didn't know because you didn't ask. You saw an old man in simple clothes and decided his story wasn't worth knowing. You saw a charity case, not a quiet hero." The entire cafe stood silent, a thick, heavy shame settling over everyone. The weight of their mistake pressed down, a stark contrast to the light-hearted dismissal of moments before. General Hayes took out his phone. He spoke quickly, his voice low and firm, using clipped phrases that the staff strained to hear but couldn't quite understand. 15 minutes later, while the old man and the general quietly talked over steaming mugs of coffee that the young woman with the neat bun had nervously brought, 2 sharply dressed people entered. They carried matching leather folders. They spoke briefly and intensely with the cafe manager. The manager's confident expression slowly collapsed, his face losing all color as the conversation continued, his shoulders slumping with each word. When they finished, General Hayes stood up. He addressed the group of staff, who watched him in stunned silence. "For those of you wondering what just happened," he announced, his voice carrying the same strong authority it had moments before, "I have just bought a majority share in the Daily Grind. As of right now, I am the primary owner." A collective gasp filled the cafe. A barista let go of a tray of clean mugs, and they crashed to the floor, the loud sound cutting through the shock. The manager's jaw hung open, his face a mask of complete disbelief. "First order of business," General Hayes continued, his gaze sharp as he looked at each employee. "Sergeant Jenkins gets free coffee here for life. No questions, no waiting. It's the least we can do for a man who served our country so bravely and was treated so poorly." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Second, every single person here will go through mandatory training on how to treat all customers with dignity and respect. Or," he added, his voice hardening slightly, "they will be replaced, starting today." He turned to the old man, his voice softening with warmth. What do you want, Art? Anything at all. The old man, still a little overwhelmed by all the attention, chuckled softly. Just came for a simple black coffee, Rob. Nothing fancy. Then you'll get the best simple black coffee in this city, Art. That's an order, Sergeant. General Hayes insisted gently. The barista who had smirked earlier, a young man, stepped forward nervously. Sir, General Hayes, if it's okay, I'd be honored to make Mr. Jenkins coffee. The old man's weathered face crinkled into a smile. Thank you, son. That would be just fine. The young barista prepared the coffee with careful respect, even asking about his preference. By evening, the story had left the café. Veteran ignored, Commander Bai's Café was trending online. Veteran groups and military family pages shared it widely, tapping into a common feeling that some sacrifices can never be fully repaid, but respect is always due. The next morning, the old man returned to the café. This time, every employee stood and greeted him with genuine respect. The young barista approached with a steaming cup. Black, no sugar, just how you like it, Mr. Jenkins. I asked around. The old man chuckled, his eyes crinkling. The café, now known as the Quiet Grind, with a small bronze plaque by the entrance reading, Every soldier matters, every voice heard, became a symbol of true respect. It was a place where service was remembered, and no one was ever invisible.